Times are changing in Maranello. Ferrari is finally backpedaling on its typical dislike for turbocharging. The California, its least expensive model, is the first to take the plunge, but it won't be the last. Ferrari plans to turbocharge all of its future V8 models and migrate its 12-cylinder cars to plug-in hybrid powertrains like the LaFerrari. All hail the mighty mile per gallon, I guess. You know, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm sitting inside of a Ferrari right now that I'm actually worried I might not like. This is the California T. It's turbocharged, and you're right, that's not the first time that Ferrari's done this. After all, there's the F40, but come on, that's an F40, and this is a California. Except it sort of isn't, because like I said a second ago, this is the California T. It looks the part, and with any luck, it'll be just as exciting to drive. Okay, so here are the numbers. The California T runs to 60 miles an hour, 0.2 of a second faster than its naturally aspirated predecessor. It also makes 14% more power and 50% more torque. Top speed is increased to 196 miles an hour, which is a smidgen above the old car. Unfortunately, we're not going to be testing that today. But what I am going to test is how it performs on one of my favorite roads, the Angeles Crest Highway. Turbo lag is virtually imperceptible in this car if it exists at all. The 3.9-liter V8 has a pair of dual-scroll turbochargers feeding up to 19 psi into the intake manifold. Now, you can hear a little bit of turbo whistle while it's doing that, but it's really not the dominant sound in this car. Nope, not even a little bit, because the flat-plane crankshaft V8 wails all the way up to 7,500 RPM. Now, that is a little bit lower than the naturally aspirated California, but what you give up in rev range, you more than make back in power gains. Now, it won't come as any surprise, but it takes absolutely nothing to blow way past the legal speed limit in this car. I mean, my gosh, it's a Ferrari. You have to expect that. But that brings me to a very important point, because in the California T, carbon ceramic brakes come as standard equipment, which is really important because you want to be able to stop just as quickly as you can go. And that really is important because this car weighs somewhere north of 3,800 pounds before you start taking into account the optional electromagnetic shocks that this car is equipped with. But if I didn't know better, I wouldn't say that it felt that heavy. It has plenty of cornering grip and it feels very stable while turning. The steering is light but very precise, and the engine has plenty of power. By default, the California T comes with a steel spring suspension, but the added weight of the fancier shocks are probably worthwhile because in sport mode, not only does the steering stiffen up and the shift points in the transmission change, but the shocks also tighten up as well to improve handling. Additionally, you can select a softer suspension mode that is much nicer to use while you're driving over less than perfect roads. Now, I probably don't need to say this, but one of the downsides to the California is that some people don't take it as seriously as other cars from the brand. I mean, it's a small V8 with an FR layout and back seats that some people might postulate makes it less of a Ferrari than others. And while all of those facts about the car are true, I'm here to tell you that none of them are valid points of criticism. However, if I do have to find one point to pick at, it's that the 7-speed dual clutch can be a little bit harsh to downshift in manual mode. And when that happens, the car can get a little bit twitchy, and that's a bit of a turnoff. Realistically, this car competes with the Porsche 911 Turbo S, among many others. And if I'm being honest, the Porsche is a more sophisticated vehicle. I mean, it has a higher top speed. It's lighter, it accelerates to 60 miles an hour faster, it has all-wheel steering, and it has what's got to be one of the best dual-clutch transmissions on the market by a wide margin. I mean, you can go through a corner and change gears with virtually no perceptible change in grip. But for all of the Porsche's technical advantages, I would take this car hands down. It just stirs something inside of you to drive it that I honestly don't think very many other cars can. The sound that the engine makes, the feeling of controlling the car through a corner with its race-inspired steering wheel, and the simple, beautiful elegance of the cabin design all combine to make the California T feel nothing short of elegant. The Cali T retails for about $200,000 to start, but the car that I'm driving would cost about $240,000 if you were to buy it. And part of that's because of the electromagnetic suspension that we talked about earlier, but the majority of that extra cost is because of special cosmetic touches that customers can specify when they buy their car. Things like a two-tone blue and tan leather interior, special blue stitching on that leather, and two-tone alloy wheels. If I were in a position to be making those sorts of decisions, I would find it really difficult to turn away from this car. It feels alive when you're driving it, and take it from me, so will you. However, if I do have to find one point to peck at, it's peck at the point. Stupid.